5. Hard to believe we are already here. This week, we ask that you read chapters 7 and 8 in the Johnson text. The first is around exercising ethical influence. We'll talk about that in a minute. I want to make a note about chapter 8 and that the normative leadership theories is related to the final assignment in this course. So this is really meant to be, of course, reading the chapter and starting to digest the materials, but just make a note that the content in that chapter is directly relevant to the final assignment. So you may want to preview that assignment as you read through that chapter. Johnson describes ethical influence as he describes leadership as the exercise of influence, right? Like as leaders, we have an influence on those around us. And that is true. I mean, we think about that through the lens of a teacher or school leader, as a parent, and other leadership opportunities. It really is around influence. And Johnson provides 4 kind of frameworks for looking at influence. One is around framing, and that it's our role as a leader to frame whatever the task at hand is, or the importance of something, a shared goal, that there's a role in simply framing what is ahead and engaging a person. One is around compliance gaining. Certainly this is important for teachers, school leaders, right? There's certain aspects of, we'll just say the work that is around gaining compliance. Another is just communicating expectations, and that is a realm of influence so that we can explain what the expectations are. Another frame of viewing influence is arguing. There's an argumentative point to be made, and there are times in leadership where we have to argue our case. I think we often attribute arguing to again, an emotional or perhaps an elevated state, but that doesn't necessarily, that's not, like, we could argue about something in a really productive way, and sometimes we have to argue our case. And the last lens is around negotiation and having conversations and again, influencing, trying to help someone understand and motivate a person through negotiating on a topic. So for this week, I'm happy to share with you that first we'll pop down to that last line, that only your initial reflections are required for both posts, and that replying to your peers is not. And so for both of these discussion board posts, we'll ask that you complete the self-assessment, first for the self-assessment chapter 7, and then for the self-assessment in chapter 8. And I'm not going to read these word for word, but my hope is that you are able to synthesize the content in both of these chapters and really take this opportunity to reflect. Use this as a tool and give yourself permission to really reflect on yourself. It's not just professionally, right? It's personally. And so often we just move quickly through the world and through our jobs, and I'll just name it, even coursework, and I hope that you'll see this as an opportunity to pause and really let this content be relevant in your work. So I hope that that's fruitful for you, and I look forward to reading your responses. So the ethical and moral leadership presentation is due this week, and we'll talk about that more in a moment. And then, as I mentioned, chapter 8 is relevant for our final assignment, which is due Monday of week 8. So we, for chapter 5, are going to take a look at an issue in your school through the different moral perspectives that were presented last week, and we'll review those again. Please create an 8 to 10 slide presentation using any of the platforms about an issue at your school, and look at that through the lens of those 5 different perspectives, right? How would someone with a given perspective view that lens? And I hope, again, that this provides you with an opportunity to reflect on the issue and really look at it from all angles. And I just know that through this facilitated process that you will better understand that issue and really come up with some creative and new ideas for how to look at that issue and frankly solve it, right? Please include a minimum of 5 in-text citations to support the ethical perspective analysis of this issue. Think about if you were to give this presentation to your school community or to school leadership. So educational professionals are that audience. And then with those in-text citations, be sure to have a reference slide at the end. And then the presentation should have a voiceover, right? So you record your voice sharing the content on the slides. So this should be in third person. And then I already referenced the APA citations and references. Please have a cover slide and a reference slide, and that's not included in the 8 to 10 slides. So as a reminder, the 5 ethical perspectives that we talked about last week, and you could of course go back to the text and kind of unpack each of these. But utilitarianism is doing what's best for the most number of people. So you're building on your prior experience, you're considering all the different outcomes, you set your own interests aside, you weigh the consequences, you make the decision for what's best for most people. Kant's categorical approach is that you do what is right no matter what. You're duty bound, treat others the way you want to be treated, and it's an utmost respect for other people. There's also a lens to view ethics in justice as fairness, and that everything should be equal for everyone. We use justice as that guidepost, and there's a real careful consideration for individual freedoms as well as the good of our community. Pragmatism in inquiry-based is detail-oriented and engages imagination, and altruism is loving your neighbor and putting others first. So, in response to instructor remarks, please provide an example of a time that you had influence using one of the examples from Chapter 7. Please reach out if you have any questions. Thanks much.